Since dawn, the stubborn summer rain had made the whole city feel heavier. Aisha felt that weight in her bones as she wiped the last empty table in the small roadside cafe where she had worked for 13 years. Her hands were red and rough from endless soap and water. Her back ached with a weariness far beyond her 32 years. Life had never been gentle with her. The cafe sat on the fraying edge of the city, where gleaming office towers slowly surrendered to cramped apartments and broken sidewalks. It survived on cheap tea, watery lentil soup, and tired workers who counted coins before ordering. Aisha had been a waitress here since she was 19, the year her father died and her mother fell ill. Dreams of studying, traveling, even owning a place like this one, had quietly faded, replaced by the merciless rhythm of survival. Waking before sunrise, squeezing onto overcrowded buses, smiling through burning feet, and returning each night to a damp rented room that smelled of old walls and forgotten hopes. That afternoon, business was painfully slow. The rain had chased away even the regulars, and the owner paced behind the counter, muttering about losses as he counted the register. Aisha was wiping down the glass door when she noticed them. Two small boys, no older than 8 or 9, standing under the broken awning across the street. Their clothes were thin, their shoes torn, and the rain had plastered their hair to their foreheads. They stared at the cafe's warm yellow light and the steam rising from bowls on the tables like children gazing at a world they were not allowed to enter. Aisha knew hunger. She had grown up with it. But something about the way the younger boy clutched his older brother's sleeve, shivering, made her chest tighten. They hesitated for a long time before finally pushing the door open. The bell tinkled softly. The owner shot them a sharp, irritated glance. The boys walked to a corner table and sat with their hands folded, eyes nervous, as if afraid to touch anything. They didn't speak. They didn't look at the menu. Minutes passed. The owner leaned toward Aisha. "If they're not ordering, tell them to leave," he whispered. "This isn't shelter." She nodded, because nodding was safer when you needed the job, but her feet felt leaden as she approached their table. Up close, their thinness and the brave mask the older boy wore, while his little brother's lips trembled, broke something inside her. "Can I help you?" she asked gently. The older boy swallowed hard. "Auntie, we don't have any money," he said, voice barely louder than the rain. "Can we just sit here for a little while? It's so cold outside." A memory rushed through Aisha. Nights she had gone to bed hungry, pretending sleep could fill her stomach, and the rare kindness from strangers that had kept her alive as a child. She glanced back at the counter. The owner was arguing loudly on the phone with a supplier. Without giving herself time to think, because thinking would have stopped her, she said softly, "You must be hungry." The boys looked at each other. The younger one gave the smallest nod. Aisha went to the kitchen, heart hammering. She knew the risk. Her salary was barely enough for rent. Still, she prepared 2 full plates, fragrant rice, lentils, vegetables, and a boiled egg each. When she set the steaming food before them, the boys froze, as if the meal might vanish if they moved too quickly. "Eat," she said, smiling. "It's hot." They ate with the desperate gratitude of children who had not had a proper meal in days, trying to be polite, yet unable to hide their hunger. The younger boy's eyes filled with tears as he chewed. Aisha had to look away, her own eyes burning. When they finished, she brought them warm tea, ignoring the owner's furious glare. "Thank you," the older boy said as they stood to leave. "We'll remember this forever." Aisha laughed gently and waved it off. "Just grow up strong," she replied, "and be kind when you can." The older boy reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, folded piece of paper. "Our names," he said, pressing into her hand. "So you don't forget us." "Aimayan." "He's Samir." She tucked the paper into her apron, not fully understanding why it felt so important. As the boys disappeared back into the rain, Aisha felt both lighter and heavier at once, as though she had done something small yet irreversible. That night, the owner scolded her harshly, docked her pay, and warned her never to do it again. She went home with too little money for rent, but she slept with a strange, quiet warmth in her chest. Days became weeks, weeks became years. Life did not suddenly become easier. Her mother passed away. Rent rose. The cafe changed owners. Aisha moved from one small job to another, always serving, always surviving on the edge. She never saw the boys again. Sometimes, on the hardest days, she wondered what had become of them, whether they were safe, whether they even remembered the woman who fed them on a rainy afternoon. The little paper with their names stayed tucked inside an old book on her shelf, slowly turning yellow with time, a quiet reminder of one rainy day and a choice she never regretted. 15 years passed like that, quietly and relentlessly, until kindness itself had become just another memory buried beneath bills and exhaustion. Then, one ordinary evening, as Aisha was closing up at a new cafe in a different part of the city, the bell above the door rang. She looked up, tired and ready to tell the late customer they were closing. A tall young man in a simple but neat shirt stood in the doorway, accompanied by a younger man who carried a large paper bag. For a moment, time folded in on itself. "Auntie Aisha," the older one said, his voice soft with disbelief and recognition. Her hands began to tremble. She knew those eyes. Ian stepped forward, a gentle smile breaking across his face. "We've been looking for you for months. We never forgot." Samir placed the bag on the table. Inside were warm meals, sweets, and an envelope. "We want to say thank you properly," Ian said, voice thick. "Because of what you did that day, we kept going. We studied hard. We worked. I became a teacher. Samir is studying engineering." Tears slipped down Aisha's cheeks as the brothers embraced her. The same woman who had once been a tired waitress with rough hands and a breaking heart. That night, for the first time in many years, Aisha didn't feel the weight of the world quite so heavily. A single act of kindness, given without expectation on a rainy afternoon, had traveled farther than she could have ever imagined. And in the quiet of her small room, she opened the old book, took out the faded paper with 2 children's names, and smiled through her tears. Some lights, once lit, never truly go out.